What's going on, Jerome's? So 53-man rooster cutdowns as well as practice squads will be forming this week. So we thought it'd be a good time to go over the rules, the terminology, the phraseology, and the deadlines that are coming up. It's always good to refresh yourself this time of year. So 53-man cutdowns deadline is today, Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Time, which is the only time zone that matters. And vested veterans with more than 4 years of experience are free agents right away. And players with 4 or less years of experience, essentially, on the rookie deals, must pass through waivers. Now, waiver claims have to be added to the 53. You can't just put in a waiver claim and put a player on your practice squad. That's no bueno. And the current waiver order is the draft order. Well, it's the draft order, and then the Dolphins get to participate. So the Vikings are currently at 24. The Bears are up at number 1, etc. So any players, any young players do have to pass through waivers, and it's just like your fantasy football waivers. Like you put in if you want in on a player or not, and if a player is claimed, the team with the highest waiver priority gets a said player. Now, if you do claim a player off of waivers, you have to claim their entire contract. So if there's significant money due or whatever, that does count. So there you go. Then the players on injured reserve before the 53-man deadline. So you've seen players that are added to injured reserve, and also you've seen some players that have clear injuries, like King Kenneth and Wangu, that have not been added to IR, because if you're added to injured reserve before the 53-man roster deadline, you're done for the season. You're unable to return. It dissuades teams from stashing players that could return at some point during the season just to save a roster spot. I understand why they do it. So, with King Kenneth, I think what the Vikings are going to do is keep him on the 53 after the deadline passes, then put him down onto injured reserve, freeing up a roster spot. And if a player goes on IR, they can return after 3 games. And also, you've seen players that have been waived with an injury designation. So if a player goes unclaimed, then they revert to the team's injured reserve. It is season ending. That's what happened with Malik Knowles earlier in the offseason. But if a team does waiver claim an injured player, they obviously must think that the player can help them at some point that year, since they do have to add them to their 53. Then also you have the regular season physically unable to perform list and a non-football injury list. So only one applies to the Vikings currently. Chris Reed is on the NFI, and if you want to get on the regular season PUP or NFI, you have to be on the preseason training camp PUP or NFI. So Andre Carr II was on the training camp PUP. He came off. He's good to go. Chris Reed has been on the entire time. Now, if they do go into the regular season, they do have to miss 3 games on the 4 games. I guess 4 games now. Doesn't matter. But yeah, 4 games on the PUP or NFI. And then you have the practice squad. So after waiver claims have gone through, etc., teams can start forming their practice squads starting at Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central Time. 16 total players, which is a lot. It's one of the nice things that come out of the the Rona season, where the expanded practice squads, more guys get time in the sphere, more guys get time in the building. NFLPA loves it because it's more jobs, etc. Players with unlimited experience, 6 max. Now, a lot of teams have used this where if they sign a veteran free agent during the season, they'll just sign him to the practice squad because they can protect him, and then eventually they're added to the 53-man roster. It's a way to save a little bit of cash. Then players with 2 or few seasons accrued, 10 max. Players with no seasons accrued or seasons of 9 games or less active, 16 max. Basically, you can have some old guys, but it's usually mid-level or young guys. Also, there's the International Pathways Program exemption that would apply to the Vikings with edge rusher Junior Aho from SMU. So the Vikings can hang on to him on the practice squad or the 53, actually. But practice squad makes the most sense, and the Vikings would have 17 players on the practice squad since he would not count. You can protect 4 players per week. Now, you can't protect players from 53-man cutdowns through waivers onto the practice squad. So you do have to subject them to waivers. That's part of the game there. But you can protect up to 4 players per week, and that rotates through in a week-by-week basis. And then game day elevation. So players on the practice squad can be elevated to the game day roster, the game day 48, up to 3 times before they have to be added to the 53-man roster. And then a maximum of 2 practice squad elevations per week. week. And you've seen teams, I mean, you've seen the Patriots do this with like their punter at times, where they won't have a punter on the 53, but then they'll just elevate a punter on the practice squad until he exhausts his elevations. Or you see this, teams do this with backup quarterback sometimes, although the third quarterback rule kind of nixes that, or specifically special teams players. Like they did this with Dan Chisena a handful of times going forward. So there you go. But that's it. I mean, that's really about as basic as it gets. The practice squad rules, as well as what's going to be going down today. 53-man roster cutdowns, difference between waived players and cut players, and all that other stuff. But your thoughts on the thoughts, let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.